Okay, picture this. You're out on a hike, you take a wrong turn, and suddenly everything looks the same. The path is gone, you're lost, your heart starts hammering in your chest. What you do in those first few moments, well, it has nothing to do with that fancy gear in your backpack. It's all about the framework you have built in your mind. And today, we're going to build that exact framework, step by step. So let me ask you straight up. You're in that situation. Panic is starting to set in. What is the very first thing you do? Do you immediately start walking, trying to find the trail? Do you shout for help? Maybe pull out your phone, desperately looking for a signal? Just think about it for a second. Because, and you might find this surprising, the right answer is kind of counterintuitive. The single most important survival move you can make doesn't involve your legs or your lungs. Nope, it all happens right here, between your ears. Before you do a single thing, you have to think a single thing. There's a quote from our source material that just nails it. Stay calm. Calmness is the first act of control. Think about that. Before you can control the situation, you have to control yourself. Panic is your number one enemy. It just torches your energy, it clouds your thinking, and it leads to really, really bad mistakes. So before anything else, you just stop, breathe, and get calm. All right, so once you're calm, you can start thinking clearly about priorities. But how do you even know what's most important? Well, nature basically sets a ticking clock for you. And if you're going to survive, you have to know what that clock is counting down. This is where something called the rule of three comes into play. Now, the rule of three isn't some complicated military tactic. It's just a reality check. It's based on the hard limits of the human body. And understanding these limits is the absolute key because it automatically creates your to-do list for you. It tells you exactly what you need to worry about first, second, and third. First on that list, and this one is completely non-negotiable. You can survive for about 3 minutes without air. This is priority number one, always. Your brain is an oxygen hog. And without it, your ability to make any good decisions just vanishes almost instantly. Seriously, nothing else matters if you can't breathe. Next up on our survival clock, about 3 hours without shelter in an extreme climate. And this is all about your body's internal thermostat. Your body is fighting constantly to stay at around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. If you get too hot or too cold, things like hypothermia can set in, and your systems start shutting down fast. Shelter is what lets you control that thermostat. After that, we're looking at 3 days without water. You have to remember, every single cell in your body needs water to do its job. When you get dehydrated, your blood literally gets thicker, your heart has to pump way harder, and your ability to think and move just plummets long before it actually becomes fatal. Water is absolutely critical. And finally, the one that surprises a lot of people, 3 weeks without food. Yeah, 3 weeks. As it turns out, food is the lowest immediate priority. Our bodies are amazing at storing energy, and they'll burn through fat reserves to keep you going. So the big takeaway here is don't waste precious time and energy looking for berries when you should be building a shelter. Okay, so if we follow that rule of three, once you're sure you can breathe, the next most urgent thing on your list is shelter. This is you versus the clock. You've got to maintain that core body temperature and protect yourself from the wind, the rain, the sun, whatever nature's decided to throw at you. That 3-hour clock is officially ticking. You got to get out of the elements. But, where you decide to set up shop is just as important as how you build your shelter. Picking a bad spot can be just as dangerous as having no shelter at all. So here's your mental checklist. You want to be on high ground so rain drains away from you, not into your shelter. You want a natural windbreak if you can find one. And ideally, you're close to your resources like firewood. But the really big one is avoiding hazards. Look up. See any big dead branches? Survivalists call those widowmakers for a reason. And never, ever camp in a dry riverbed. A surprise rainstorm can turn that into a flash flood zone in minutes. Okay, you've got a roof, or something like it, over your head. Your priority now shifts to the next item on our clock, water. You've got about 3 days, and while that might sound like a long time, it's really not. Finding water, and this is the important part, purifying it, takes time and effort. This is just a fantastic example of how a little knowledge can save your life. Even if the ground looks dry, there's usually moisture down below. With a solar still, you're just using a sheet of plastic and the sun's heat to pull that moisture out of the earth. It evaporates, hits the cool plastic, condenses, and drips right into your cup, perfectly purified. It's slow for sure, but it's a guaranteed source of safe drinking water. So what if you get lucky and find a stream? It looks crystal clear, right? Well, looks can be deceiving. It's not safe to drink until you treat it. Just remember this simple 3-step process. First, filter out all the chunky stuff, the dirt, the leaves. Second, let the water sit for a while so the finer silt settles to the bottom. And third, and this is the most important step, is potabilization. That's just a fancy word for killing all the invisible creepy crawlies, the bacteria and viruses. You gotta boil it, use purification tablets, or even just leave it in a clear bottle in direct sunlight. Now, once you have shelter and a water source, you can feel the shift. You're not just reacting anymore. You're starting to actually take control of your situation. And the next set of skills, making fire and finding your direction, are all about being proactive. They're about making yourself safer, warmer, and hopefully finding a way home. You're lost and you don't have a compass? Don't worry about it. The sun is your compass. The shadow stick method is an ancient technique, and it is unbelievably reliable. You just stick a straight stick in the ground, mark the very tip of its shadow. Then you wait a bit, maybe half an hour, and mark where the tip of the shadow has moved to. The line you draw between those 2 points, that's your east-west line. It's that simple, and it works anywhere on the planet. And what's really fascinating is how nature gives you different clues depending on where you are in the world. So in the northern hemisphere, the sun moves across the southern part of the sky. But in the southern hemisphere, it's the total opposite. Just take a look at this chart. From the sun's path, to the stars at night, to even how tree rings grow, knowing which hemisphere you're in is the key to unlocking the map that nature has laid out for you. And this really brings us full circle, doesn't it? Because the ultimate goal isn't just to be tough enough to survive a terrible situation, it's to be smart enough to avoid danger in the first place. This is all about being prepared, not scared. It's about shifting to a proactive mindset. A perfect example of this is knowing how to spot potential threats. This chart gives you some general rules of thumb for telling a venomous snake from a non-venomous one, like a triangular head or elliptical, cat-like pupils. But our source material gives you the single most important survival rule of all. If you have any doubt whatsoever, you assume it's dangerous and you give it a wide berth, period. So with all this information, how do you keep it straight when you're under pressure? Well, you use a simple mnemonic, like RUMBO. This is your game plan. You review your surroundings. You understand your location. You maintain that calm and conserve your energy. Then you begin working on your priorities: water, fire, shelter. And finally, you organize your thoughts and execute that plan. And what about gear? You don't need a massive pack. The philosophy here is all about capability, not quantity. The CIE rule boils it down to the 3 absolute must-haves: something to cut, like a solid knife; something to illuminate, like a headlamp; and something to ignite a fire, like a ferro rod. If you have those 3 things, your ability to survive just went up exponentially. And we'll leave you with this last thought from the source material because it really gets to the heart of it. It says, remember, in real life, no one is saved alone. But do not wait for someone to save you. That captures it perfectly. We depend on others, on rescue, but real preparedness is about self-reliance. It's about taking responsibility for your own safety by having the knowledge and the mindset to act. So the real question isn't just what's in your pack, it's what's in your head.